Fed Up Warrior here. I want to talk to you about a ordeal that the black community either doesn't know about or not being told. I'd like to personally thank Miss Hillary Clinton for bringing this up herself, just on the simple fact that if we're not careful, blah, 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 as far as with Brett Kavanaugh, we'll end up back in the 1850s. So, since she wants to bring up an issue about slavery, eye for an eye, lady, that's all I'm going to say. This image you are seeing right now is of an individual named Anthony Johnson. Now, there's something unique and special about this individual. He came into the colonies as an indentured servant in 1620. But this individual comes with a nice little ordeal that nobody may know about. Now, there is another individual that you need to be aware of, and they both tie in together. The other individual is named John Kaser. John Kaser is going to play a crucial role on things that I'm about to explain involving Mr. Anthony Johnson. Mr. Anthony Johnson started as a slave. He was an indentured servant. At some point during his tenure in the United States, he managed to do something that during that point in time was impossible to do. He was a slave owner. You're probably looking at this individual and you're sitting here going, wait a minute, slave owner, how is that possible? Well, it did happen. And the gentleman I just talked to you about, Mr. Kaser, happened to be one of his slaves. Now, a lot of people are also asking, how did he treat his slaves? Very poorly, ladies and gentlemen. In fact, I'm about to bring you some evidence that proves how poorly he treated them. Compliments of Encyclopedia Virginia Humanities. This is the transcript from the original documentation involving a lawsuit in 1655 involving John Kaser versus his slave owner, Anthony Johnson. The deposition of Captain Samuel Goldsmith taken in open court, 8th of March, saith, this being at the house of Anthony Johnson at the beginning of November last received a hogshead of tobacco. A person called John Kaser came to the deponent and told him that he came into Virginia for 7 or 8 years per indenture, and that he had demanded his freedom of his master, Anthony Johnson, and further said that Johnson had kept him his servant 7 years longer than he ought, and desired that independent would see that he might have no wrong. Whereupon your deponent demanded of Anthony Johnson his indenture. He answered, he never saw any. The said person, which is John Kaser, replied, he came from a certain time and had an indenture. Anthony Johnson said he never did any, but that he had him for his life. Further, this deposition saith that Mr. Robert Parker and George Parker, they knew that the person had an indenture in Mr. Carey 100 on the other side of the bay, and said that Anthony Johnson did not tell this person to go free. They said that John Kaser would recover for most of his cows of him. Then Anthony Johnson, as the defendant did suppose, was in a fear. Upon his sum of the law, his wife and his 2 sons persuaded said Anthony Johnson to set the said John Kaser free. More said than not. The end result, ladies and gentlemen, is plain and simple. This opened the door for slave owners to own slaves for life. The worst part, it was a case involving 2 black individuals. Anthony Johnson was not the only black slave owner in the United States. Compliments of the root. Henry Louis Gates Jr. wrote an article, Did Black People Own Slaves? It shows an image of Nicholas Augustin Matoyer, Louisiana. He owned 13 slaves in 1830. He and his 12 family members collectively owned 215 slaves. Is that proof? I can get you more. Compliments of Iron Bark Resources. They put in an article talking about how there were black slave owners in the United States, pinpointing back to all the way back to 1830s, possibly even before. This one breaks it down. Michael P. Tremogli in The Black Roots of Slavery also noted the issues of black slave owners. It talks about how there were many families blacks in the American colonies. They were enfranchised as early as 1641. These free black-owned slaves, some with philanthropic reasons, as Karen Carter G. Woodson suggests. However, as John Hope Franklin wrote, 5 had a real economic interest in the institution of slavery and held slaves in order to improve their economic status. The census in 1830 lists 965 free black slave owners in Louisiana, owning 4,206. State of South Carolina lists 464 free blacks owning 2,715 slaves. How ironic is that so many blacks own so many slaves in South Carolina, yet no one seemed to mention this during the flag controversy. Some blacks served in the Confederate Army. That I do remember. What people need to understand, this is not a white issue. This has nothing to do with race. And I'm about to give you yet one more piece of evidence to prove that slavery was going on long before whites even came along. Compliments of the British Library. Thousands of years ago, according to the Old Testament, the Jews were slaves in Egypt. The Israelites had been in Egypt for generations, but now they had become so numerous. Pharaoh feared their presence. He feared that one day the Israelites would turn against the Egyptians. Gradually and stealthily, he forced them to become his slaves. For people to sit there and insist, oh, the whites did the slavery, they own for reparations. Those of you who suggest that, you might want to look in the mirror. I'm tired of it. In the future, the NAACP needs to put out this kind of history. It is very important. They like siding with narratives. This is one time they don't need to be siding as a narrative. They need to be lining together and getting the history out. This is a piece of history that even the schools don't even teach. So NAACP, Al Sharpton, Jesse Jackson, I got a message for you. This needs to get out. This needs to get out. You don't like it. That's not my problem. People need to know. And stop falling for this narrative history that slavery has been a racial thing. No. Furthest thing from it. And this individual here and others are living proof. Slavery has nothing to do with race. Please check out my new channel. And if you like, subscribe to my channel. Push the notification bell. That way you get notifications on future videos. And thank you for watching.